So I was busy doing this sort of vector, converting this into vector art, and I sort of had a bit of a challenge in what was happening here. If we look here, you have the blue in front, then behind that we have the gray, and behind that we have this turquoise circle. So those three circles there, and then there's this circle in front. However, when you move over onto this side, the turquoise is in front of the blue. In essence, the turquoise should be behind the blue, behind the gray, right at the back. But here it goes from behind everything to being in front of it. And then also you find the gray is going around here. And if you follow the curvature of the gray, it should come around this area. And it should basically be right in front of everything. However, the turquoise and the blue is in front of the gray when it comes on this side. So it seemed to be sort of behind in some sections and in front in other sections. I was wondering how's one going to do that? And eventually kind of sorted out a mechanism, and I want to show that to you just so that I can archive it for myself for the future also, and might help you along with a project similar to this. So if we look at this here, I'm going to just select these three, and you can see these outlines where they are. So that gives you an idea of it. And this circle is kind of right in the middle over here. One thing that I think is important to do when you're working with this, because you're going to be cutting stuff now, it's going to be slicing it. You don't want it to have a stroke on the outside. So if you go to the stroke there, you can just go to 0 so that every object has no stroke on it there. If you want to add it in later, you can do so. But for now, when we do the cutting process, you're kind of going to have to take that off. So the key here to get that solution is to use this tool, which is the Flood Vector tool. Now this is in a bit of a later, I don't know when it was introduced into Affinity Designer. Let me see here. So you have, this is version 2.2, but I think it's at version 2, the full tool, or version 2.1. So just make sure that you have this vector flood tool, because if you don't have it, then this is going to be a bit difficult. Possibly is still doable, but I'm looking now at how you're using that tool. And then there's other tools. So let's select everything. One of the key things that you're going to do, because these are kind of ellipse tools, and this is almost like parametrics that you can draw them and then shape them differently. If you want to do this process, you're going to convert these all into curves. So you select it and you can go convert to curves. And if you don't see it over here, there are some other tutorials where it shows you that you can place things in this area. But this is a context sensitive menu. So if I click off here, you see there's nothing. As soon as I select, even if I select one of them, let me show you, select one of them, you will find out that the convert to curve comes in there. And what I explained now about this ellipse tool, before you convert it to curves, if you don't convert it to curves and you select it, you'll see it has other features, like you can, if I convert to a pie, I can change these diagrams and everything. So not diagrams, but these shapes, because they, if you've worked with 3D models, we talk about parametrics. So they have built-in features to them still. So we want to move them out of that space to start off with. So I'm going to just select all of them, and I'm going to go convert to curves. Okay. So now when you convert to curves, it's pretty much, you'll see these nodes appear here, and there's a fill color and an edge. In our case, we have no strokes. However, if I look here now, after I did that, I still see there's a one-part stroke. And if I do this, you'll see there. So after I do the convert to curves, make sure you take down the, what do you call it here, the width of the stroke to 0. Then it works just a bit better when you start cutting up stuff. So now we're sitting with curves. The next thing we're going to go to is this menu divide here. This is like booleans. For those of you who've worked with booleans, this is to add two shapes, that's to subtract, etc. The one we want to go to is divide. The reason for this is where everything intersects. When things intersect with each other at those particular points, we want things to be well, they call it divide. If you hover over there, you'll see it says divide, but it's basically cutting through. So if there's two shapes that cross each other, they will cut and create elements. So let me show you here. If we say divide, now I've selected everything here, say divide. Now if I'm going to just go to, if you look here on the side, you can see here now there's a whole lot of pieces, although it still looks as one. I'm going to click off here. And if we look closer here, you'll see the little lines where it's kind of been cut. But if I click here, can you see it's selecting a piece there? There, it's all now selected in little pieces that it's cut through the process. Okay, so it's all pieces. And that's what the divide has done with these curves that we had. So what I'm going to do now is I want to mimic what is happening here on this object. So if we come here with the turquoise comes in front, and here also by this gray part, everything here is turquoise. So to use the vector flood tool, you've got to select the objects that are all part of the equation where you're busy working. So I'm going to just select all of them, and let's maybe bring that in. Well, I've got to show the other one so I know what I'm going to do. And then I go to the vector flood tool. Okay, and then I've got to go to colors so that I know which color. Now, if I click with vector flood, it's going to put in red. So if I show you now, this is red. If I click into this little area, it's red. If I there, red. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm replicating that. Isn't that cool? Okay, but in this case now, I'm going to just use this as the sample. So I drag that across, and then I click on this to transfer it over there. And now I'm going to put in the actual colors that I'm going to use. So that's turquoise. If we look here, this is fine. This is coming around here. However, let's see, is there any other part? Okay, so the blue comes over here. So I'm going to go select the blue. And this is blue already, but this area here we want to make blue. So let's put it there. And this little top area is going to also be blue. Okay, so you see what's happening here? This circle wasn't correctly cut off in this area. And you might find that happening and wondering why that's taking place. It's because your circles weren't cutting over that area. So this whole area is one here. Now, instead of me going and redoing the whole thing, I am going to just show you what I would do here. I would take this circle section and just lead it up right onto the edge. But in this case here now, I've got an area like this that I need this to be colored in. So I'm going to just take this area and the circle, these two, and I'm going to have this thing cut through there. I keep my shift down and click that. So it's got, if I click this one, I can click the other one, keeping shift down. So I've selected this area here where the fault lies. And this area, and I'm going to go click again, divide. You shouldn't see too much happening, but if I click off here now, you see there, I've actually, because it intersects there, it's cut this piece off. And that's what I pretty much want. So now I've kind of done a problem solving. If you really are finicky and you want to go right back to the start and move this to the edge, which technically I would do, but for the purpose of this now, I'm just showing you a workaround, that you've made this thing a bit bigger so that it touches there, and then you can cut this object from that one. So now we're going to go with this tool again, the fill tool, and I'm going to select this color, put it across, and now I'm going to, no, it's not that one, it's actually the gray, eh? So I'm going to take that, and we're going to plonk that in there. Okay, so there we got it. Okay, so if all things were correct and I had the circle cutting through at that point, then I wouldn't need to have done this workaround. But at least you see me in action doing this stuff. Now the next part is, as you see, these lines are kind of out here. Now there's ways, I think I did a video showing how we can eliminate these lines. But the key is I want to join everything that's blue, everything that's turquoise into one object. So what I would do is I'll go here, select, then I'll keep shift down, select the next section. So it's those three. And then I go again up here to these Boolean tools, and now I click add. And just look what happens over here. Even here in the layers, you see those three areas. If I click here, You see it's taken those three and joined them. Here you can see it's joined them into one curve over there. That's what's cool about these features. So I'm going to click here, click, keep shift down, click here, and this little piece at the bottom. So it's 3 pieces. And then I'm going to click add, and you'll see here again in the layers, same thing happens. Say add, and it brings it all into one. This one, that piece, and that piece. And then add that. And there we got it. Okay, at this stage, if you wanted to go add any gradients here, you could click the gradient tool and move them accordingly. And it will just be specifically into this area. If you now move it, you can see it just applies, because this area now is a curve area on its own. If you find artifacts that are sticking out at the bottom, you can just zoom in and, you know, modify that. So that's how we do it. There we've got that shape, and that shape. And if we follow this here, this one is in front, that one is behind, that one is behind, but here it comes front in that area. So you can see there, mimics exactly what's going on there. Okay, so yeah, as far as creating these objects, and that's for another lesson. This is just to show you how to use the divide little Boolean feature, the add Boolean feature, and the vector fill. Okay, so that you can cut shapes across each other and then fill them and then join them all together. Cool. Hopefully that helps you. Have a blessed day, and shalom to everybody.